I'm gonna be real with you guys. I've been wanting to. So I've been doing what I've been up to is I've been doing sketch comedy for the past 5 years, and I've still been doing stand up, but my online presence has mainly just been doing sketches. And somewhere around 2018, I started to feel this nudge, this pull to start talking about some of the things that I've been through. But my big hesitancy with it was I didn't want to sound like a motivational speaker. Plus, I'm like sitting in an apartment with no AC and I have swamp ass. I'd feel a little hypocritical if I'm just telling you guys how to reach your goals. Like, I'll tell you guys 5 steps to achieving everything if you just put your mind into it. And you're like, okay, well, I'm not gonna listen to you. Put your mind into it. Or as Ice Cube says, put your back into it. Dude, I've been making like really, really bad dad jokes lately. I'm in my 30s now, and my body is telling me to have a kid, but I'm resisting it because I know it's not wise. But it's like these dad jokes just keep coming out of me. It's like I feel like nothing can stop me from turning into a dad. It's like transforming into a werewolf. I had this idea. This was back in 2018. I've been through a lot in my life, and I started feeling this nudge like, Matt, you need to talk about what you've been through. But as a comic, a lot of times our humor can be a defense mechanism because we don't want to be too serious. There's nothing more cheesy to me than going off and becoming a motivational speaker, like I just said. Like, I don't want to give TED Talks. I don't. Telling you how to reach your goals when I haven't even reached mine. Plus, they're just giving a TED Talk to everybody now. Have you seen some of these TED Talks? It's like really, really reaching. A guy comes out with just the earpiece and he's like, today I would like to talk to you guys about giraffe vagina and how that relates to cold calling and sales. And you're like, I don't really track the parallel between those two things. And I started to think about this kind of stuff a lot in 2018 because I started to think about purpose. Because to me, I always thought purpose was just tapping into what you're good at, like your career. Like Michael Jordan's purpose is to be the greatest NBA player. Or Kobe's purpose was to be the greatest, etc., etc. Or, Jack Nicholson, his purpose is to be one of the greatest actors of all time. But anyways, I started to think about purpose a lot in 2018. Somewhere around that time, I was sitting in the back of this comedy club. I was going to do an open mic. And I'm just pondering, like, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? And I wrote on a sheet of paper, my purpose is to put people in touch with who they really are. And I thought about that, and those are the battles that I've had in my life, to find myself, my deeper self, who I really believe that I actually am. I don't believe that we just come out and we're just these generic things that the world just stamps, and we just kind of become just a set of ideas from social conditioning. I don't believe that. I believe that there's someone that we are, but a lot of times it's hidden, and from point A to point B is finding your true self. It's like two puzzle pieces coming together, okay? And I thought, well, that has been my battle, and that's what I fought with, and so that's what it is. But there comes a point when you just can't latch on to that one thing to make you feel significant, because comedy is like this. It doesn't even matter if you're Chris Rock. You have those moments of highs and lows, and if your identity is too married to comedy, you're gonna shatter. There's no way you can keep that up. Something as unstable as comedy, to where, like, if that were to go away tomorrow, like, what do you have? And that was one of the things that I started to ask myself. I went through a lot in my life, man. I found out that I wanted to be a comedian when I was 14 years old, I think it was. And all of a sudden, my identity was melded to that for a really, really, really long time. Really, really, really long time. I was obsessed with people knowing that I was funny. And if I didn't feel funny for one particular moment, there was just like this shame of cascading emotions that went down on me. Here's the reason why I think it takes a long time to reach your goals. I've been pursuing comedy now, and I'm in my 30s, and I think I'm pretty great at it, if I'm going to be honest with you. But I've put in the time and I've put in the hours. One of my favorite stories in the Bible, and I know some people are going to be like, the Bible. But one of the best stories is the story of Joseph. So Joseph was basically Kanye West before Kanye was Kanye. Joseph was this guy, he had this dream, and he went and told his brothers, like, hey, you guys are going to be bowing down to me. And his brothers were, like, upset at that because back then people thought more highly of dreams maybe, but they're like, who does this guy think he is? And they're also jealous because their dad was the one that was like, Joseph, my boy, and he was always doting on them. And so his brothers were like, you know what, I'm not going to deal with this. They throw him into Egypt or give him away to Egyptians or something like that. I think that's the story, I forget. But anyways, Joseph ends up in Egypt, and the Pharaoh puts him in charge of all this different stuff, so he has some favor. But then all of a sudden, the Pharaoh's wife, I think it's the Pharaoh, I'm giving you guys a loose what I remember. And Joseph gets tempted by this guy's wife. And it doesn't say this in the story, but I'm sure Joseph was probably looking at her a lot. You know, he was probably like, she's got ski slope hips, and she's pretty fine. And she basically says to Joseph, like, hey, I want to smash. And Joseph is like, I can't do that because it would actually go against my character, it'd go against God. And so she's like, no, I want to smash. She just grabbed him like a stress ball, and she was like, let me give you a physical examination. Cough in my hand. Let me see what that thing do. And so he just takes off running, and his coat falls off. I know this sounds like a cartoon, but back then they weren't wearing jeans, you know, like, hey, she grabbed my jeans and my jeans fell off. No, he was wearing a coat, and his coat falls off, and so he just starts running, and he's butt naked. And she's like, hey, he tried to, you know, force himself upon me, and he was the first guy to get Me Too'd, as far as we know. And so he gets Me Too'd, he's in prison, and he's there for 17 years. So if that's not going to build character, I don't know what else is. Now, the reason why I use that story as an example is because sometimes the gift can become a little bit of a curse. For instance, when you have a talent, you have to deal with women who aren't going to have your best interest at heart, or dudes. You have to deal with people who are going to say slanderous things about you that aren't actually true. You're going to have to deal with your friends, some of them not wanting to be your friend anymore. You're going to have to deal with jealousy. You're going to have to deal with people saying things about you that aren't true. So now this thing that allowed you to be able to buy a Tesla and live in a 7-story house now has some of the people who you thought loved you turn against. Oh gosh, that truck sounded like a gigantic fart. I don't know if you guys could hear it. But you're going to have people that actually turn against you. So with that being said, it's a long journey to the top if you want to rock and roll, in the words of AC/DC. But AC/DC did not marinate for a long time. Their lead singer, Bon Scott, died really, really, really young. So my point being is, success can be a curse if it finds you before you're ready. So the right way to go about it a lot of times is to get sucker punched in the nuts over and over and over again to where you can't have any kids anymore and you're totally infertile. No. It's you know, so you can keep moving in life, but maybe a slightly less painful analogy. Sucker punched in the stomach, you know, until you're bulimic. And you know, it just boils down to some folks are gonna hate you. You have to be able to balance that out. I'm not even famous, and a lot of times when I leave something on YouTube, I either get a really, really positive response, but then you get like a really negative response to where it's like, who are these people? Some people will be like, why haven't you killed yourself today? And you're like, what did I ever do to you? There's just some people that for whatever reason, they don't like your face. And one thing I've noticed is people who are doing something, who are really in the arena of life, and who are actually moving towards something and are completely focused on what they should be, they almost never criticize you. So the point is sometimes when you set your goals, there is a longer... There's just a plane going over my head right now. So selfish. So selfish. It's Murphy's Law does happen as soon as you turn on the camera. It's like anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Oh, it's like, oh, there's a guy that's, you know, just streaking. The other day I saw somebody in Los Angeles. This is how I know I've been here too long. I saw them and they were wearing a t-shirt, but they had no pants, just pecker swinging back and forth. And I was like, okay, this is like an X-rated Winnie the Pooh. It's still a beautiful place, but the crime is also awful. You're like, look, it's a palm tree. And then there's a guy getting stabbed underneath it. Aww. So the point is, guys, is set your goals, but know that sometimes there's going to be a longer road to reach them than you ever anticipated. At least that's what I've learned in my own life. And the good thing is you can now handle that thing and you can enjoy that thing. Because if you get stuff before you're ready, it's the worst thing that can happen to you, in my opinion.